Oof. Hello everyone and welcome to Jane Bloodborne's House of Eyeballs, a Bloodborne stream where we don't fear the old blood, sometimes it fears us. How y'all doing this week? We're looking good. We're looking stylish. We're looking like a Canhurst Vile Blood. For anyone who didn't catch last week's stream, we completely and utterly owned the Martyr Ligarius, and we took his stuff. We took his crown, we took the robes of his subjects, we took just a whole bunch of his stuff. We also took his blood, and we used it to make ourselves stronger. And one of the primary ways in which we did that was by increasing our blood tinge. You can see it there, sort of towards the bottom left. Our blood tinge is now 20, up from a paltry 12. So our blood is looking real murky these days. And oh my gosh, Regression's nearly finished a dissertation. That is awesome. Well done, Regression. I know you've been working super hard on that, so well done. But yeah, other things that are super cool are having 20 blood tinge. So that means our blood is just real fucked up. And the reason that we did that was so that we could get this, which is a sort of saber katana type dealie that scales with our tinged blood. So we get our cool slash combo, and then if we're feeling fruity, we get to do a cool, overly exaggerated sheathing pattern like this and cover it in blood. Look at that. It's cool as shit. Ooh, love it. But off camera, while I was building Blood Tinge, I also went and got this, which is a sort of more muskety, I think that's a flintlock pistol. I think maybe they're both flintlock pistols, but this one definitely. Look at it, it's cool as heck. I love it. I love the design on it. It's very ornate. It's very ostentatious. It's very opulent. It's emblematic of the Canhurst Vilebloods from whom we stole it. Lovingly named after a woman and graced with an intricate design, adored by Canhurst knights. Love it. I love it. Oh hey, Deanie's in the chat, Nat's in the chat. What's up? What's up? But yeah, so the thing about this Blood Tinge build is, and I mentioned this a couple of streams ago, is that it means that our early game is super rough because we're putting all of our points into skill with an admittedly pretty skill-heavy weapon. But we have to stop at some point, otherwise it'll harsh our Blood Tinge building later in the game. And it also meant that we had to rush down a boss that you're just not meant to fight that early on in the game. Like, some of you may have gotten the impression the first time I was hacking away at Martyr Ligarius that I was perhaps slightly underleveled, and you'd be right. You'd be extremely right to think that. Oh wow, Blood Tinge gemstones. Let's go. But we did it. We were triumphant, and in being triumphant, we reap the rewards. So now we basically pour every spare blood echo we can find into leveling Blood Tinge, and things get out of hand pretty fast. They get out of hand pretty fast in such a way as, so remember this pistol? Remember how we mainly used it, in fact we exclusively used it to A, stagger enemies for visceral attacks, and B, knock back beasts, get that super big, knockback window, take advantage of all of their stuff. Yeah, that was super cool. However, its damage value was pretty superfluous. Like, it would do 30 damage to maybe some of the weaker dogs, but as it stood, not that big a deal. Evelyn, however, is a souped up motherfucker. Let's just look at that. Look, 108 blood attack plus 59. That's a lot. That's a great deal. That's so much so that if we look at this bone marrow ash that I found I think it's in the Hemwick Charnel Lane, perhaps in the Forbidden Forest somewhere. In fact, does it say? Yeah, the Hemwick Charnel Lane, there you go. It super soups up your firearm damage. So I was just having a fiddle around. I was testing it out with like a blood weak enemy. It was I think it was one of the bigger dogs. So I used that with Evelyn at the level I'm at now. It did 300 damage with a projectile attack. That's a lot. That's a really, really large amount. So yeah, we're gonna make use of cool gun dirt to do just a bunch of damage. However, we're not going to use that gravestone because we're going via the Forbidden Woods, because this stream, the roadmap for this stream is that we are going to go and shank some snake druids down at the bottom of the Forbidden Woods. We're going to go and investigate the shadows of Yharnam. Snake druids or snuids. Exactly. Absolutely the case. Not a single snuid shall escape my sight. Let's just look at the damage that we're doing here. How you doing there, you crow? What up? Owned. Completely owned. Things get owned. Oh, there's too many pebbles. What's that? You hungry? Well, you're not that hungry. The bullets are real. And they're only going to get realer from here. No pebbles. Chat's telling me to throw pebbles. Why would I do that? That would result in me having fewer pebbles, which seems like the opposite of what I want. Like, establishing a pebble turnover rate that's not what I'm looking for in my life right now. Or ever, in fact. We've had quite a long look at the Forbidden Woods. We came here quite a while ago. But, you know, I like this place. I like it a lot. It's cool. I like how sort of... I was going to say snaky and then caught myself, but maybe I should have said it anyway. It's sort of like labyrinthine. It bangs. I'm into it. But it's labyrinthine in a completely different way. Oh, nearly 1,000 damage visceral attacks. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. It's good as heck. Yeah, it's completely, it's like it's warped and strange in a different way to Central Yharnam. I dig it. Like, this game it's a land of contrasts to Central Yharnam, and I think this is a good one. Come back down here, investigate these snake-like happenstances. And I really enjoyed the very all-in nature of the Blades of Mercy that we were using, but I must say I'm not unhappy to be back to being able to do reasonable damage by just lightly tapping the enemy with my big sword. Let's have a fiddle around with our transform attacks on this here pig. Ow. So our transform damage is pretty good. Not perfect, but it's okay. But it'll only get more and more nuts, because as we saw last time, our sword is only at +6, and its scaling only gets better from here. And our blood tinge is only going to go up, so I foresee damage in our future. Dun 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 dun. So yeah, we move through here, we see more gravestones. We love gravestones here on Jane Bloodborne's House of Eyeballs. They're one of our favourite set dressings, and here, there's a few of them. Now, I haven't fought this boss in a very long time, so I'm eager to see how well we do. I like doing damage. Damage is good. So these bosses are cool. They got snakes, they got fire, they got all kinds. Interesting. Alright, let's not waste our bullets. We need them. We need to keep hold of our bullets. Oof, that was bad. Okay, do we want to... Am I remembering right that... So someone here summons a big snake. Is it the mage one at the back that's casting all these fireballs? If I kill him first, do I avoid the snake? Oh look, he's got a tonitrus. Remember that? Remember we saw that last week? Because part of my brain wants to focus down this sword guy, and part of my brain wants to avoid big snake. Okay, big snake is just third phase, and happens anyway. That's fair enough. See, there's this big gravestone in the center that you can use to, like, cover yourself from all the big wide fire attacks. It's cool. It's basically that three-person boss fight from Dark Souls 3, but, like, good. I like how he's running away from me, and that feels right. Okay. Ow. So historically, I have always just ignored Big Snake, and usually it works for me. Well, that was pretty clean. We get a rune, a Blood Rapture rune. Thanks, the Shadows of Yharnam. What does that do for us? Visceral attacks restore HP. They already do that, but we want them to do it more because our runes are not doing a great deal for us right now. So I think we're going to go and put that on, but also level up our blood tinge. Am I thinking of a Dark Souls? Perhaps I'm thinking of a Dark Souls 2 boss fight that has 3 people. Yeah, no. Chat is talking about the Abyss Watchers from Dark Souls 3, and they are actually the best thing about that game. Now, I think I'm thinking of a Dark Souls 2 boss fight that has 3 like priest type enemies and lots of undead kicking about. Da, da, da. Tinge my blood. This is the fortify. I want to repair my weapon, just in case. And do I have anything I can spend the rest of these echoes on? Probably not. So I'm just going to go and memorize this rune. Which one am I getting rid of? This one. This one sucks. Where is it? Visceral attacks restore HP. Really, we want like a more blood echoes or like a damage boost rune, but there's like a visceral attack damage up rune that I like a lot. But for now, we'll stick with these. I don't think we can get that until we meet the next area boss. So. Chat's talking about whether Smog would be gross online. Smog is gross offline. Like, I don't know if you've ever killed Ornstein first in that boss fight, but he sure does eat him with his hammer. Like, Smog is into vor and in the gross way, I think. So, yeah. More of these giant gravestones we see so much of. And like, again, at this low altitude compared to the rest of Yharnam. Sort of the magnitude and size of Yharnam's history. Ooh, and what's this? Let's look at it with this monocular, what I found. Because I, after spending multiple streams in a row complaining that I didn't have the monocular, I was just looking through my inventory and saw it. Isn't that funny? A latticed sort of honeycomb gravestone. Now, this is interesting because not only do we see our latticed honeycomb that we've seen in the Hypogean Jail gravestone that I pointed out before, but also we can see it kind of taking shape out of what appear to be like maggots. So like, this is a really cool visual motif, right? Like, the structure of the lattice of this gravestone is literally being like built of rot. That's very cool. That is a very, very cool visual motif. I like it a lot. And hiding it down here, like, it's way out of the way. Like, you might not even see that coming through here. Like, let's just have a look at where that fits on the standard. I guess there's one here. But like, you rush past it. I don't know. It's cool. I'm into it. Like, we have all of this, you know, all of this death and decay lining the floor, and like, linking that to the development of this visual motif with the literal theme of rot is cool as hell. I'm into it. I do not yet have the tonsil stone. I was planning to get it, but I don't actually remember where you get it from. Do you get it from the village in the Forbidden Woods? We're going to go through here for now, but if anyone wants me to get the tonsil stone, just tell me where to go, and I'll go get it. So this is very different, right? We've got a lot of dry ice kicking around, and whatever that is. And let's have a look at what that is, actually, because it's interesting. So, just from like a logistical standpoint, I guess, it looks kind of like a plant. Like, it's made to sort of not stand out against this forested background, so you walk into it. Classic Souls level design. But, what is going on with its face? That's a lot of eyeballs. And like, it's got weird vestigial spider legs. It's definitely not using to move. It's jumping and leaping about, but it clearly has the body of a person, even if it's also got some weird kind of tail thing at the back. Is that a tail? Looks like a tail. So yeah, this like almost rats. This like almost trypophobic. Ooh, am I dead? No. Yeah, it's an almost like trypophobic cluster of eyeballs on the face. It looks kind of like a lotus seed pod, which is a classic like example of trypophobia in nature. For anyone who doesn't know what I mean when I say trypophobia, it's this fairly common human aversion to surfaces that either happen to be like pimpled or full of holes, like full of perforations. Basically, they clash with. I think the idea is that they clash with what people expect from sort of natural surfaces, which that they be smooth like human skin. And this is not that. So yeah, like there's a lot going on here visually, and it's a very, very, very stark contrast from the kinds of monstrosity that we've seen so far. And like, having talked extensively about eyeballs and having talked extensively about the eyeballs on this thing, and also like, you know, the nature of knowledge in this game, and also the title of the stream, maybe this ought to stand out to you. Maybe this is going to be something of an interesting visual theme that we will see explored as we go on. Because, you know, there was a person's body in there. That was clearly a person at some point, or at least we were meant to think of a person when we saw it. And this, like, what are these? These look kind of like the statues, you know, the Healing Church statues in Central Yarnum, right? They've got a similar kind of gnarled, wrinkled face, and like, so they seem to be sort of stretching out of themselves. I wonder what might be going on here. This is Bergenworth. Now, if you remember, this is where we were going, right? This is where we wanted the password to take us to. We came through the Forbidden Woods using a password that we got from a memory of a conversation between two of the members of Bergenworth, and the password itself being a watch phrase of the school itself, which we've only heard like a very little amount about, right? Like, we know that it is an institution based on learning. We know that it's like it was dedicated to learning the secrets of the old blood, right? And that conversation that we were remembering between the gentleman in the rocking chair and his friend was you know, whether like that was someone leaving the University of Bergenworth to go and sort of pursue the old blood, and the gentleman in the rocking chair said, "No, don't do it. You fear the old blood." But Lawrence, as the other guy's name was, definitely ended up not fearing it. He went off to, you know, go and investigate it. So like, has the investigation of the old blood done all of this weird, you know, what's happened here? Like, what does this signify? Let's find out as we plunge in further. chat has mentioned that the arrangement of the eyes on the faces of these things, the fact that as well that their pupils are very dim. Like, they have pupils and the rest of an eye structure, but you can barely see it, which means that, like, in aggregate they read as like pustules, and I think, yeah, that's like super cool. That's super, like, you know, clear imagery, I guess. It's like trying to communicate these eyes as, like, you know, they're horrifying to us, and clearly this is meant to be a horrifying creature, and, like, you know, they're definitely coded as wounds, like. I think that's super cool. I'm into it a lot. There's much like in the rest of Bloodborne, there's a lot of nested visual imagery going on here. Why signify one thing with an image when you can signify 8? That's the Bloodborne promise. Oh hey, who's this? We've seen him before. Oh, what? Whoa, but this time he's got arcane magic. He's not just trying to grab us and, you know, poison us or whatever it was he was doing. He's trying to cast a spell on us. Did surprisingly little damage there. Ah, there we go. Blood sword. Blood sword ought to get him. Oh, I love that untransform animation. When you're done, just... Oh, it's so good. Just... I talk about it all the time, and I will continue to talk about it all the time, because just I love it so much. Like, the animations in this game, they make the most basic tasks an absolute joy. Just things that you do every single combat encounter... boring. Things that you do every single combat encounter are just a pleasure, to the point that where, like me, you know, you do them again for fun. It's so good. I love it. I love it. So yeah, this is a cool building, right? Like, this is completely different to anything that we've seen so far. All the buildings that we've seen so far have been what we called sort of a classic Victorian Gothic, like an architecture that is, you know, emblematic of the time from which it originally heralds, which is like everything is very, you know, overpresented. There's a lot of spires. There's a lot of everything's hostile, I guess, but in a sort of a way communicative of status, right? Like, this is completely different. We can't really see it from here, so I'm going to get back into the light where we can see it a bit better. This building would not look out of place in, like, sort of, not contemporary, but like, I don't know, like sort of the brickwork, the way that it's arranged. Certainly the roof reads completely differently to all of the Victorian buildings we've seen so far. There's a lot more like wide, flat surface that doesn't really convey anything. It literally is just the building. I would call this building, compared to the rest of Bloodborne, noticeably utilitarian. Like, indeed, it reads as a school or a similar type of construct, and that is on purpose. Like, yeah, like, if you've been to a university, certainly a university in the United Kingdom, you look at that and you think, that's what that is. That's a university or observatory. That's what it is. Now, we can't get in this door, can we? No. And, whomst. Okay, well, we're going to deal with this eye-haver first. Oh, rude. Come on, just let me attack. Well, you don't have to let me attack, but I will anyway. Whoa. Okay, I'm going to retreat. But, yeah. What the whole fuck is that, huh? And I guess remember that we saw that sort of weird hairy tentacle friend over by the tree using arcane magic that we identified last time as being a hallmark of the mushroom people, the kin that we found in the forest. Like, some things about maybe the wider cosmic arrangement of Bloodborne might be starting to take shape here. Like, what is this? So, it's got close to 1 million legs, first up, right? It's also keying into a lot of that imagery that Dark Souls was so fond of. It looks like a tree, basically, is what I'm saying. Oh, Lord. Oh, and of course, like everything else in Soulsborne, it's got a hell of a lot of vagina imagery going on. Look at that. That's not even remotely subtle, because, you know, Miyazaki's not a fan of subtlety. I'm into it. But yeah, so there's a lot going on with that thing. It's like, oh, it also was shooting giant fireballs, or indeed meteors at us. Oh look, a Great One's wisdom. I believe that is even more so than the Madman's knowledge, yes. Fragments of the lost wisdom of the Great Ones, beings that might be described as gods, used to gain insight. And Master Willem had an epiphany at Bergenworth, saying, we are thinking on the basest of planes. What we need are more eyes. More eyes, huh? Because the folks here, outside this school, seem to have eyes to spare. And not only that, but they've got a weird tree tooth vagina alien kicking around on their porch. So they've got, you know, they got some eyes, right? And they've learned about things that could be described as gods or otherworldly creatures that are not bound to this plane. Look at that. Ooh, framing of the moon. Very important. Very purposeful framing of the moon. I like it. So yeah, like, this is what I really like about Bergenworth, because we've been here for about 10 minutes. Like, Bergenworth is a tiny, tiny area, but it expands your perception of all of the ideas at play in Bloodborne a lot. As, you know, you would expect a university to do. That's what universities are for. I like having this monocular. It makes me feel very Frank West. I feel like I'm sort of, every time I see something cool, I'm like, let's look at that. Look at that. Feels like I should take a picture. Yeah, there's the moon. Directly, you know. And what's this? Is that a rocking chair? Could that be Master Willem from the vision that we had earlier? Why don't we go and ask him? Why don't we go and ask him why he fears the old blood? Before we do that, we're going to open this door. Does someone who knows, can someone who knows tell me, do I have to get the tonsil stone and do the thing with the tonsil stone before I do the area boss here, or can I do it after? What's that? Footsteps. Okay. Now that is interesting, right? Like, this is pretty unequivocally a human being, possibly even a hunter, casting arcane magic. Like, I don't know if it's the first one that we've seen, but it's a very, very early one. Like, this is a big deal, right? And look, fucking weird-ass tentacles exploding out of your hands. That's not normal. People shouldn't do that. Maybe. It definitely seems like a concern that they are. Wow, you've got a lot of health. or rather are taking not much damage. Oh, countered. No! Wow, rude. Extremely rude. Well, we opened that door, so we're going to go in there and try and kill her and get our souls back. But yeah, so she has all kinds of interesting things going on about her. She's casting spells, there are fucking tentacles exploding out of her hands, like, there's a lot going on. Yeah, and as someone in the chat is saying, the arm tentacles, they don't like disappear back into the portal that they came through. The portal just closes and they just flop off. So like something's going on here. This is weird and not normal, and we're meant to read it as such. So I think before I fight this again, have I built her? I think I might have. I'm just going to go into my inventory and have a look for this item that I found. Where is it? Is it here? Oh, Pearl Slug. Clear signs of the left behind Great Ones. And this is super interesting, right? Because, hang on, let me just get out of here, just to make sure that I don't get ganked by horrible tentacle people. Yeah, so, like, normally we wouldn't be super interested in this stuff, right? Because it's Chalice Dungeon material. It's a Holy Chalice ritual material. But I want to just focus on this, right? Because here we have we're calling to mind the images of pearls and imageries of slugs, right? And earlier on, I talked about how so imagery of like sea creatures particularly is a big deal in fiction like this, in fiction that deals with humanity having a small place in an otherwise like colossal world, like a cosmos that is cruel and indifferent to life, right? And that sea creatures are, you know, an early frontier for exploring that for people on Earth. They become a touchstone of visual identity for stuff like this. Now, slugs are mollusks, right? So they're like, I think slugs are mollusks, and they're invertebrates. They're weird. They're like gooey, and also there's a lot of them in the sea. So like, this is again also with the pearls is like, this is some very clear and interesting sea creature imagery that is it has like very strong threads throughout this game, because like this sort of I guess imagery of like weird gooey stuff is it's something that Bloodborne is very, very concerned with, and we're going to be very, very concerned with over the next few hours, because gooiness, proximity to gooiness, and the ability to exude gooey tentacles from your arms is oh, don't do this, don't do this. Wow, she doesn't even care about the blood, huh? Oop, that's not what I wanted. In that case, I'm gonna try and visceral attack her. Ugh, rude. No! No! Bad dash. Why did that not? Ugh. Oh, no, no! that was terrible. Holy wow. Damn, getting the counter off with that tentacle spell is good. We're doing alright. We'll be okay. And then I think after we kill this, we can get another level up before we continue, which is good. We're interested in that. So yeah, like slugs as evidence of intervention by Great Ones is a big deal. Something I want you to remember if you're like, you know, interested in analyzing the thematics at play here. Owned. Chat has suggested I use my pocket sand. I think the thing about pocket sand is that it doesn't last very long. Like, I don't know. Ow! Ow! Why'd you? Oh, that seriously? That's very annoying. Uh-oh. Oh. There are some, like, each individual ball in that has its own tracking, and sometimes they track you. It's very difficult to, like, figure out where the tracking just happens. Like sometimes you'll get tracked by 10 different particles and you just can't evade them. I think it's to do with your altitude. Like, I think maybe they're if they're at a higher altitude than you when they cast it, it just like runs you down, and very few of them hit the floor because they move out in a cool sort of flowery pattern. So I like. Where's my souls? Oh no. Okay, let's lead you downstairs so we can go upstairs and get the souls. Ow. Ow! Damn, that whip. She long. It's like a Benny Hill sketch. Ah! Okay, we want to stay close so she doesn't. Nope. Not like this. I should try and like attack her roll, shouldn't I? Ugh. Haha! Wow, they did very little. No. Shit. Oh, that nearly killed me. Yeah, owned. Phew, that was rough. We got there. So yeah, that was interesting as well because it was a human, probably a hunter, with, you know, not only functioning like combat faculties, but also the possibility to like cast intricate spells. Like, there was a lot of like thinking going on there, and yet here they are, like inside what is now very clearly a school, surrounded by weird eye honeycomb people and like a strange tooth tree alien. And what do they have? Blue elixirs. What does blue elixir do again? Makes still bodies undetectable. Okay. What does the lore have to say about blue elixirs? Dubious liquid medicine used in strange experiments. A type of anesthetic that numbs the brain. Numbs the brain, you say? Numbs the brain. Because that is interesting, right? Like, let's imagine for a moment that the people standing outside had, like, you know, what there were once people instead of weird eye honeycomb beasts. Like, if there are a lot of eyes growing on your head, that's probably going to hurt your brain, right? And like, it's interesting for someone to be carrying a medicine for that kind of ailment. Ooh, student uniform. I wonder what the students here look like. Let's find out, shall we? I know, student trousers, isn't it? Wow, it's like a worse version of what I was wearing before, and doesn't go with my crown. Therefore, we're changing. So, like, from this we can kind of sort of intuit that maybe, just maybe, that person that we done killed just now, maybe they were on a path to becoming like those people outside. And what might that imply? What might that imply that all of the scholars of this apparently prestigious institution, like, look at all this stuff. This clearly wasn't cheap, you know. They must have been discovering cool, interesting things to have been able to continue, and yet here they all are, you know, with their heads full of eyeballs, you know, gibbering outside, slapping at the people as they come in, trying to jump on them. And what are these? So, yeah. What was going on here? Because Master Willem, he said we needed more eyes, but I don't know about you, but I'm looking at a surplus. Like, there's a couple eyes here. There's eyes to spare, which immediately brings forth the question: where did they come from? Whose eyes are these? Where are the bodies these eyes came from? Or did more than two eyes come from one body? Because those guys have got a lot of eyes. Are these extracted eyes from scholars? Because these are big eyes. These are not person-sized eyes. Look at them. They're the size of my fist. Even bigger. There is a surplus of eyes. And whatever those are. Organs, I guess. Looks kind of like the queenly flesh, actually. Or maybe some kind of stomach. Kidney, maybe. But yeah, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. I'm going to go and level up. We're going to think about what the implication of a school full of eyes, a school full of jars of eyes, might imply. God, stop! Have you contemplated not? Oh, I'm dead. Ass. Oh, frenzy. My frenzy is building up. Can I... I did it. But that's interesting, right? Like, we talked before about how frenzy is a stat that, like... Oh, are you serious? That's really funny. Oh, that's so good. So we talked before about how frenzy is a stat that it represents, like, its meaning is like, it's the meaning of, like, having a frenzy thing popped is left fairly ambiguous. Like, it doesn't really explain, the game doesn't make a great deal of effort to explain what it means when you get frenzied. But you know, you take a great deal of damage, and like I mentioned, it scales with your insight. Another thing that is left fairly ambiguous. Now, what could it mean then that this ailment, this wound that you can be inflicted that scales with your knowledge of the nature of the world of Yharnam and the greater cosmos itself, what does it say that the scholars of Byrgenwerth, who are full of eyes, can inflict it themselves? Hello. Yes, probably while we were dead. More blood tinge. Okay, so the Byrgenwerth lamp is here. Yes, okay. So, having defeated that scholar inside the school, we're going to go and see what's going on that balcony. Who is in that rocking chair? So yeah, like, what can we glean about the connection between insight, knowledge of the wider world of Yharnam, and, like, these things? Indeed, look at the insight meter. It's marked by an eyeball. What does that mean? What does it all mean? We'll find out, I promise. Oh, rude. Rude as hell. Okay, well, I think this might kill me instantly, but we're going to fight back and see what happens. Oh no, not instantly dead, just nearly instantly dead. Are we out of quicksilver bullets? That seems bad. But possible. I can't check from here, can I? Can I check from here? I don't think I can. Well, we'll find out, I guess. We don't actually need them for the next area boss, so we're good. I'm good. So this is the way to the balcony, but it's locked, so we're gonna go and try and find a key. Ooh, and what's this? I forgot to examine this last time. Oh, rats. When the red moon hangs low, the line between man and beast is blurred, and when the great ones descend, a womb will be blessed with child. So, yet more childbirth motifs that will they'll only start to get layered on thicker as we go. But, the red moon hangs low. Now, currently the moon is pretty categorically not red, so what could that mean? And also, the line between man and beast is blurred? Like, it's not already? Oh no. This is, ominous. It's a pretty cool thing to see at this stage in the game, considering one of the very first thing that happens in the game, like one of the major events of the first sort of 5 hours of the game, is a man literally turning into a beast before your very eyes and trying to kill you. So what's this? It's a Lunarian key. But what's that sound? I don't even know if you can hear that sound. But up in the attic we've got yet more eyeballs. Is this the House of Eyeballs we've been looking for this whole time? You have to wonder. Also a thing I want to draw attention to, apart from that noise in the attic that we are going to go and investigate, is this thing. Like, this is a stellarium, right? Like, that's the sun in the middle with a weird face. And these discs are like orbits, and that's the world, right? Like, they were studying the cosmos here, clearly. But, we are going to go upstairs. Oh, well, I thought that was something else, but it turns out it's just one of those. What up? Bullets. So yeah, like, this is pretty clearly an observatory, right? Like, does staring at space make you grow all of these eyes? Is that a thing? What's in here? An empty phantasm shell. Now, what the hell is that? An empty shell that applies arcane power to a weapon. An empty, invertebrate shell that is said to be a familiar of a great one. The Healing Church has discovered a great variety of invertebrates, or phantasms, as they're called. Shells with slime still harbour arcane power, and can be rubbed on weapons to imbue them with their strength. Now, we can't equip this, and we probably won't be able to, because it requires too much arcane skill to do, but, again, in a very, very short space of time, we've got a second reference to the idea of invertebrates and the Great Ones, right? These beings that could be described as gods. Like, this looks like a slug or similar creature has shed its skin, right? And even just the skin of one of these things that it's long since discarded and is now ancient, you can still confer immense arcane power on a weapon just by rubbing them together, you know. So there's a lot going on with these creatures, or whatever this cosmic entity is, these ideas. And this is something that Bergenworth is trying really hard to get us to come to terms with, is this idea of what might be the material consequence of seeking out knowledge, expanding your knowledge of the world and the cosmos. Is it this? Let's go and meet somebody who has something to say on the topic in the Lunarium. So this is the balcony that we saw earlier, and that is the rocking chair, and sure enough, it's Master Willem, from the vision that we had earlier. Although, he wasn't exactly the picture of health when we saw him last time, and now he's looking even worse. Look at him. He's looking old, he's looking gross, his skin is looking translucent, like very, very wet. And what is going on here? Come on, there we go. Is that coral growing out of his back? Like, what is happening here? And what does he have to say for himself? Not much. But what he does have to say for himself is to point us in that direction. Now, this coral imagery is a really interesting one to me, because it is an equally evocative but completely different one to the one that we've seen in all of the scholars so far, right? Like, maybe it's sort of close-ish to this one, but like it's a very, like coral is a very complex and plant-like undersea structure, right? Like, it's wild and cool and sort of, if you were the kind of person who was obsessed with bizarre alien geometries, coral is the kind of place that you would start. It's the place that you would look at, because, I mean, look at it. It's gross. And, like, it growing out of a person is a really, really cool visual motif here. Like, what they're trying to imply about Willem here is actually quite multi-layered. So we're going to sort of go into it over a period of time. But for now, we're going to go this way, as suggested by Master Willem. And here it is, our pale blood sky. Now, what, one wonders, is in here? We have a rippling effect on the floor, like on the floor, on the sea, the surface of the sea. Like, And this is a cool shot, actually. Like, it's sort of, it's actually, it's not really the sea, is it? It's more like a, I don't know, what would you call this? It's either like a big lake or like, maybe like a cove or something. But, I don't know. It's like, it's at once almost boundless, but clearly contained. It's a very, very well framed shot. I like it a lot. But we are going to drop into here and see what happens. And land on a water surface and see whatever that is. So this is interesting, right? Because it's like, there's again some clear sea creature imagery going on here. It has these drifting tails that are emitting light, lots of light on its body, but also it's like, I don't know, grotesque and weird. So we're gonna approach it and see what happens. Oh my gosh, thank you for, I'm gonna guess, following whoever just did whatever that was. I love it when people hashtag engage with my hashtag livestream. And look, on the floor, it's got a collection of legs. And is that a face? And here we see again our lotus pod-like cluster of eyeballs and a gross circular mouth, which is like, there's a lot going on here. Does it not? Oh, it doesn't. So that makes this maybe the second creature in all of Bloodborne that waits for us to attack it, or even rather that doesn't attack us. So this is a really, really fantastic creature design. So it's got this sort of like plant-like structure of stuff, sort of floating, sort of hovering on its back, like there's a lot of like undersea creatures that use this kind of like, I won't say design, this kind of like structure to them as well, right? Like there are whoa, frame rate dipped out on that model there, but yeah, like I don't know, this is really cool. Not only that, but the sort of trypophobic eyeballs, which, oh wow, look at them all looking at me, that's so cool. They not only are on what is clearly like its head, but also like several layers back. This thing has a lot of eyeballs. They just keep going. Not only that, it's got even more of the weird trypophobic hole stuff going on down the I guess it's abdomen, but only like the most vestigial room for legs. Like these legs are barely supporting its body, and like just whatever changed the scholars outside the university that we just went to, whatever was about to happen to the scholar that we found on the first floor of the university, happened to this thing in many, many, many times the measure. And like by understanding that, if we understand that because what we saw first from the Bergenworth scholars outside the university is their eyes, right? And so from that, we're given to assume that the presence of the eyes on their body, or whatever caused the eyes to appear on their body, is the driver of change for their physique, right? And by that sort of understanding, we can see that same change, its conclusion lies in a complete transformation of the body. Like, look at these legs; they're basically gone. Soon it will have like just completely gone past them. It won't need them anymore. Like, all it needs is these eyes. All it needs is for its body to be able to accommodate the things that it's learning. Oh, I love this creature design. I love it so much. Chat loves Rom, and I love Rom. Rom is real and good, and she's my friend. That's completely true. No truer words have ever been spoken. God, I love this creature design. And what else is on this plane? Nothing. There's nothing here. No one here. We are, like I said before, literally trapped on an infinite radial plane with Rom. Regression says, have I ever considered just not? And do you know what? I think I might consider just not. How do I... I'm just going to sit here and appreciate that we're trapped here together. But that whatever it is much further down its path than I am. Whatever she is much further down her path than I am. Because as we are about to learn, this is a character called Rom. And yeah, she is fairly important to the world of Bloodborne. She plays a pivotal role in not only our understanding of it, but the understanding of the world of every single character. She is very much a forerunner, you know? A trailblazer. If indeed our suspicions are true, and the eyes confer knowledge, then Rom can only be a genius. And look where it got her. Shoulder deep in eyeballs, and about to be stabbed by me. She's got spiders to spare. I wish she'd vac you less. So this fight's really interesting, actually, because as you may have seen, when Rom takes a certain amount of damage, she warps away, right? And every time she arrives on the scene, she summons a new cadre of spiders. That just so many goddamn spiders. And each of them, like her, is covered in eyeballs. Just so many goddamn eyeballs. And like... So her main tactic is to sit around... Sit around flanked by a horde of spiders and cast powerful arcane magic. Really intensely powerful arcane magic. And this is like a graduation of the theme that we got with the Bergenworth Scholar that we saw before, right? Is this, despite a monstrous physical appearance, despite like the only thing that could be called appendages being vestigial and barely functional, like such intense power, such intense knowledge, such intense like I don't know how I'd describe it, but whatever it is, it's there's a lot of it, right? Like she know a great deal. Ooh, okay, we're gonna get out of here. Yeah, I'm doing way more damage to this boss than I expected to. Look at this. Oh, the shots of this are just so good. Oh, okay. We're done with this. But we've learned a great deal. We've got a lot of insight now. We've got about 6. But yeah, like, the game wanted us to know that even though Rom was barely able to acknowledge our presence until we attacked her, even though, like, whatever was going on with her had completely... unlike the scholar that we found on the first floor of the Bergenworth Observatory, like, they were clearly possessing of some level of, like, faculty. Like, Rom was possessing of very few, right? However, Rom, conversely, had been able to tap into intense arcane power, which we've sort of previously identified as a connection to what we called the kin, or, you know, perhaps indeed kin or relatives to these great ones that we've heard so much about. So, like, the game wanted us to know that whatever Ron was doing, she was doing it real well. But, who dat? Long bride's dress, having a bit of a cry. What could she be crying about? Or indeed he, if it turns out to be. Or indeed they, if they turn out to be. Not what we expect. So, like, the scholars were learning. They were learning, as we saw from their stellariums, they were learning about the universe, about the cosmos, and the things they were learning were changing their bodies. Giving them eyes, perhaps, giving them their eyes. And that was warping them, making them monstrous. But whatever they learned, whatever they found, Rom had learned and found something way on just a completely different scale. So, yeah, let's keep that in mind as we continue. Oh, hey, how about some of that birth imagery? That is the blood moon, when the red moon hangs low in the sky. Now, as we are literally crushed by the blood moon in that frame, for anyone who is not super familiar with particularly regressive ideas about gender and, like, gender and its role in nature, the blood moon is historically a symbol used with periods, particularly the ways in which women became quote-unquote monstrous related to their periods. It's like, it's bad because, like, you know, blood moons, they're uncommon. They're and the moon and the connection of the menstrual cycle and the moon is like the moon and the menstrual cycle is like a sort of a big historical deal, but, like, it's, you know, it's weird, and that's the imagery that we're kind of accessing at that point. Is you know, in that frame we were literally crushed by a period, which is Miyazaki at it again. So not only that, but the person that we saw in the bridal dress, this, you know, this symbol of the formation of a union, the formation of a family. Oh my gosh, it's Funkstar. Hey, Funkstar. This forming of a union, forming of a family, was contrasted with this split down the middle of the figure's body, covered in blood, like. This imagery of a lost child, or maybe like a miscarriage or something, is going to be a very big part of the next few hours of Bloodborne, as we can. And I don't know if you can hear because it's very quiet, but at the insight threshold we've reached, we can actually faintly hear a baby crying on the wind, even though we can see none. So, ritual secret broken, seek the nightmare newborn. And this is a room we didn't really access before. We had a look. We had a little look in as we came down from what you might recognise as the Cathedral Ward, but we didn't do much here because there wasn't much here for us to do. However, now there is. Now there's a lot for us to do, because the ritual secret has been broken. So if we come down into this big wide chamber that was previously empty to us, and we have a look at this, we see what is sort of like a, maybe like an altar, maybe like a shrine, some kind of font, but as I'm sure some of you have noticed, in this shot, the first shot that we were given, there's someone up there. What is that? There's more, by the way. There's more of it. We're not even looking at the whole thing. Look at that. What the fuck? This is Bloodborne basically saying, okay, that's enough. Enough arsing around. It's time to go. And go we shall. With this, the amygdala. I don't know if we know it's called the amygdala yet, but it is, and, that's fine. So, this is actually a light progression on a visual motif we've seen quite a lot of already. In fact, multiple visual motifs we've seen quite a lot of already. Bloodborne's cool like that. It's got a squid-like face, which is our not only our sea creature imagery that we've seen so much of, but also a pretty direct... excuse me, I need to sneeze. No, I didn't sneeze. I made a funny noise instead. But a pretty direct reference to Cthulhu's cosmic horror, Cthulhu and Lovecraft's cosmic horror, which, like I said before, like we talked about before, draws pretty heavily on sea creatures. Not only that, but its face, or head thing, is this sort of wiry, latticed, fleshy construct that we'd seen a bit of on the gravestone. Not only that, but it's got close to a bajillion arms, not unlike the Bergenworth scholars that we'd seen before, that we gathered progressed towards Rom's predicament of having basically no functional limbs left to speak of. But this thing's looking like it's having a pretty limmy time. So I adore this creature design. I love it a lot. Look at it. It's so cool. So in our quest to seek the Nightmare Newborn, we're gonna go this way. Hey, recognize that? From like 6 episodes ago in the Cathedral Ward? Huh. Interesting. It turns out we're gonna go and investigate that in pretty short order. So, does anyone in the chat want to tell me where is the location I can go and get the tonsil stone now? Because I think I want to go and get it. And we are going to go to Yahar Ghul, the unseen village, and some Yonamite-looking motherfuckers are going to emerge from pools of blood in the floor. Whoa, sploosh. So, does anyone recognize these statues? Perhaps from... Ooh, look at that, covered in blood. Does anyone recognize these statues? Perhaps from the Hypogean jail, the last time we were there? Like, hidden in a strange place that we were only brought to by forces beyond our control. There were statues, not unlike these ones, that actually, if you're... Oh, I forgot this happened. If you're thinking about it real hard, are exactly like the creature that we saw at the entrance. Chat is talking about how satisfying the explosion sound is when these blood enemies get owned. It's a lot. It's good as hell. It seems to be done by just like setting off the standard blood splash sound about 7 different times, offset by like very, very small amounts. It works super, super well. It's great. And here we have a graduation of a few of the visual themes that we saw earlier, but didn't really know know what to think of back then. So first of all, just gonna talk about it here, is Miyazaki's fascination with trees really paying off in a big way here. Like, oh, look at these trees. They take on a completely different like meaning, I guess, next to all of the rest of this stuff. Like this idea of like a sort of contorted but still ostensibly like natural like structure, I guess. Like they just look so cool. They look like arterial. They look amazing. I love the use of trees here, and that blood moon. Oh look, god rays coming off the tree. Ooh, it's a good looking video game. Ooh, I like it a lot. And not only that, but we see again these statues that we saw in the Hypogean jail of weird, like, shell people, and these things, which are, like, if we took those already quite unsettling looking statues of sort of praying figures from the Cathedral Ward and the Hypogean jail, this is basically those just mangled together. Like this is a union of bodies. Like this is a how would I describe it? This is like a council of flesh. I love it. This is so good. And finally, before we leave and I go and do admin things, we see, sitting out here, facing the moon, a skeleton with a cage hat. Now, the things that we've just learned about how knowledge, the potential for knowledge to physically warp and change the body, and like the way that we've seen the scholars that have these heads that grow and warp and like, you know, have loads of eyes on them, like suddenly maybe the idea of putting a cage on your head starts to make a little bit more sense. Maybe rather than, you know, keeping stuff out, maybe we've just seen a lot of evidence that there's a lot you'd want to keep in, you know? So anyway, I'm gonna scuttle on back to the Hunter's Dream and do video games things. So like the thematic implications of all of the things that we've seen so far are super interesting, and like a lot of things in Bloodborne, multi-layered. So like where before in Central Yharnam and by extension the Cathedral Ward, we'd been exploring the ways in which explicit xenophobia is cast as, you know, this malignant force that warps and changes bodies as well as communities, as well as producing power structures. Like the Bergenworth is a very different layer of monstrosity, a very different kind of monstrosity. They've gained knowledge, and rather than it they've sort of dedicated themselves to gaining knowledge, and rather than it enlightening them, rather than it elevating them above perhaps their peers, it has burdened them, it's mangled them, it's left them unable to properly move. In the case of Rom, it's left them unable to do much of anything. and like that's real cool. Like it's a very different thing that we're exploring here. So alright, I'm going to pop back to the Forbidden Woods and get the Tonsil Stone, but before I do that, I'm just going to note that... Wait, does this... No, I have to actually... Yeah, did that... Yeah, I can't go to the Hypogean Jail anymore, which is interesting, right? That doesn't happen very often in Soulsborne games. I wonder what that could imply. But for now, we're going to go to the Forbidden Woods and get that stone. So yeah, like this idea that knowledge of the world could mangle and change you, or even just, you know, shatter you completely, was something that Lovecraft was obsessed with. He was obsessed with it in slightly tedious and boring ways, but it's the kind of thing that we'd want to make sure that we at least reckon with as we progress through this game, that is clearly deeply inspired by his work. Like... cosmic horror and its relation to mutation, its relation to like shifting and changing, is the ways in which these two things are portrayed. The ways in which these things are portrayed in these two works, and like the ways in which you can compare and contrast them, is a super interesting thing to me. Because I would say, you know, with some conviction actually, that like I would say that Bloodborne takes ideas that in Lovecraft's work were, you know, quite often tedious, boring, and like extremely racist, and at least has a good go at recasting them in ways that are much less contemptible. And the way in which community is portrayed in this game, and the way in which the result of the pursuit of knowledge is portrayed in this game, is a big part of that for me. And the next sort of 5 to 10 hours is gonna have us explore that in a lot of different ways. Ow. Wow, rude. Wow. Oh, that damage. So we're going to the village, if I'm not mistaken, to get... Oh, didn't go this way before, huh? Well, we're at the village, so everything worked out. Now that we've got a bit more health, I think I might explore some of the sort of traps that I didn't spring on purpose before. This weapon's transformation attacks are something else, huh? The left-hand path from where I just was. So here, right? Is it this lantern here? Have you ever thought that maybe the blood is drinking you? Seems like a trustworthy character. So he's given us an item that is a key item? Yes. A latticed deformed rock. See, that's why I used the word lattice to describe that pattern, because this is pretty unambiguously the pattern that we've seen before on all of our gravestones and amygdalas and stuff like that. A latticed deformed rock, or perhaps a meteorite. You see, it's got like a background texture behind the image that could conceivably be dust, but like now that we know the things that we know about what Bergenworth we're looking into and what stuff like that, like that could be stars, right? And like, in terms of the context of the meteorite, that makes a kind of sense. Appears useless but possesses some odd gravitational force that prevents its riddance. A dubious soul once said, that's like the item description there is just reminding us what this character, instantly labelled a dubious soul by the description of his own item, said to us, which I think is funny. Oh, I wish you wouldn't. Uh-oh. Oh, that's a lot of damage. So yeah, we are going to go back to the Cathedral Ward and see what this new bounty is going to give us. So many goddamn pebbles. Just going to get a couple more souls here so we can level up on the way back. Ooh, I heard a baby crying again. So this is a curious thing, right? Like this stat insight that governs learning more about the world and the universe is making us hear the cries of a phantom baby, or perhaps even a nightmare newborn. Ow, rude. So yeah, we are gonna get like just a few more souls. Ooh. Is that crows down there? It is crows. I might go and investigate the crow trap after I kill this guy. Can I do it slowly? Owned. Oh. 974 damage. Just a few more levels and we'll get the 1000 damage visceral attack. It's gonna happen, I believe. You're trapped in here with me! So yeah, this is a neat trap. Because it's not like super punishing if you get hit by it, like you just get ganked by crows, who are loud and frightening, as we've talked about before, but not super damaging if you are cool about it. And rather than run all the way back, we're just going to use a Bold Hunter's Mark, because we've got a few of those. To think really hard about symbols, and go back to the Hunter stream. Alright, so I'm gonna go back. So yeah, like this rock, which clearly evokes the imagery of these strange giant beasts that we've found, what's it gonna do for us? What's it gonna take us? And now that we've seen that Now that we've seen that same like space distortion that we saw in the cathedral ward being produced by one of those creatures, are we given to understand that there is one in the cathedral ward? Has there been one there the whole time? Makes you think. Farewell. Whoop. I wonder what is waiting for us. Let's find out. Let's learn. Let's gain some insight. Ooh. You're not looking too good. You alright? So it would appear. Baby cries as if to punctuate statement. So, I mean, I'm not going to call this a reach. I'm just going to say, like, this is Bloodborne, right? She offered us blood without any provocation. So, I wonder, with all this childbirth imagery, what could be happening to this poor lady that she's not willing to be forthcoming with her blood? Just going to let that baby cry a few more times in the frame so I can properly make my point. But that's not going to develop for a while, so instead we're going to go this way. And ooh, the purple sky looks so good. And hey there, buddy. You sure are parked on the side of the church, huh? And all of these connections, all of these like ideas that we saw about the church is like slightly dodgy looking penchant for gross sea creature monsters, and like the fact that they had a statue to one of these things buried all the way down a forgotten part of their history makes a little bit of sense now. So let's go over to where we managed to activate this, and sure enough, that spatial distortion gets created again. We take a load of frenzy damage, but our tonsil stone So a really cool thing about this is you can actually get the tonsil stone before you defeat Rom, and get a peep into all of this weirdness beforehand. There's like a primer on weird shit that's about to happen. So yeah, that amygdala has been there the whole time. Not only has it been there the whole time, but our ability to see it has been conditional on this this insight stat that we've been talking about so much. This, like, literally knowledge of the world has, as you might expect it to in a symbolic sense, literally changed the world in front of our eyes. Our many, many eyes. Look at that. Yeah, this was not the right way to go, was it? But I've gone here anyway. But yeah, wow. Look at that. That's some cool imagery. I've accidentally gone to the wrong amygdala, and it's taken us to an area I'm not ready for us to investigate yet. But I mean, wow, the palettes on display here. Consider this a preview of coming attractions. Consider this. I might chop this together and make a trailer for Jane Bloodborne's House of Eyeballs Gaiden. No, instead we're going to go to... is it just faster to go to here? No, let's go via the Cathedral Ward so we can see just how even changing the colour of the sky reframes... In fact, there are some things that have changed about the Cathedral Ward that I want us to see. Yeah, you totally can go there as soon as you beat Amelia, and it's Strang. It's you're not remotely ready for that area when you defeat Amelia. So yeah, wild, totally wild. How you doing? Let's just see what exactly has changed about this area, like apart from the just wicked ace cool purple sky and weird arm havers hanging about on buildings. These folks are still around. They're not so much of a big deal now. And like, I rail on level up systems in video games a lot, but like, coming back to a previous area that you sort of had difficulty with before and just decking all the enemies there, that's still a cool beat. That's one of the few unambiguously cool things about level up systems. What's happened to our friends the giants? Oh, they're having a sleep. It's late. They're snoozing. They're having a big snooze. We'll leave them to their snooze. So, what did this tonsil stone say again? It's to the right of the Grand Cathedral? Yeah. Let's go there. Let's see what there has to say for itself. Don't mind me. So another thing that all the things that we've seen today set up is the idea of the healing church and Bergenworth as like again major power structures in the world of Bloodborne, but also two power structures uniquely concerned with looking to the heavens, right? And the dichotomy between them strongly mirrors the ideas, oftentimes competing ideas of oh no, hunters, I don't like those. So yeah, the oftentimes competing ideas of the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of faith, right? Like, generally speaking, you'd expect that the pursuit of knowledge might be, more readily democratized in favor of benefit to the common person, whereas the pursuit of faith is quite often associated with imagery of, what was I on? Yeah, the pursuit of faith is quite often sort of used with respect to like things like feudalism and the divine right of kings, like things that are often what we would call anti-worker. But like, I guess in this game, like, things are not necessarily so cut and dry. Like, Bergenworth have, rather than they haven't been especially forthcoming with the things that they've learned. Indeed, the things that they've learned have completely immobilized them and prevented them from, even if they were interested in doing so, which we can only really speculate, they certainly haven't, shared the things that they've learned with the people. Indeed, they've kept them to themselves, sequestered away in this university, which still today, universities are for a lot of people like images that signify the sequestering of education and knowledge for the privileged, and the Bergenworth scholars definitely have that privilege. Give me back that non-rally health. I love it. Give it to me. So we're going to go and have a chat with this amygdala. What up? Do you want to show me your gravity well? Do it. So someone thinks we're in for a bad time. But who? Whomst? Why? We're at a lecture building. And what are these on the table? Jars full of eyeballs. Could we be at some other Bergenworth? Certainly looks like Bergenworth. It's bigger. It's a lot bigger. But here it is. It's the architecture is the same. The decor is the same. What's this over here? Treading a measure with the gods. Is that what we're doing here? And who is this that is so convinced that they led us to this fate? Oof, that's a burn. So whoever this is, whoever this person is, they want us to throw ourselves to the wolves. I like that. I really like that expression actually. Like, especially here in this clear like callback to the Bergenworth school, like the idea of allowing yourself to be consumed by what this person calls a meeting with the divine is like, that takes on a lot of different meanings in this context. Well, sorry, it takes on some pretty clear meanings in this context. Like, to be consumed by knowledge, to be perhaps warped and changed by knowledge, but nonetheless to do so willingly, to do so gleefully even. Cool. I like it. What's in here? More eyeballs. Well, there's a lot of eyeballs on this stream. It's good. I like it. And I hear some noises. My, what's this? I love a lot that here we are in an auditorium, a lecture room of what was called a lecture building already. And this thing falls from the ceiling looking like a person. Now, much like Master Willem that we saw earlier, it has gross gelatinous flesh and a sort of washed out white face. So like, and it has this coat. Where have we seen this coat before, I wonder? But just in case you needed a little nudge to know that this was a scholar, it's got a flatboard graduate's cap on, which is amazing and hilarious and cool. I love it. But yeah, so the main things that I think when I look at this enemy design is, first of all, ew, but also like it looks like it could conceivably be a more active progression of the kind of change that Master Willem was undergoing, right? This idea of becoming more sea creature like. But also the things that we know about slugs and sliminess, which we have identified earlier today as signifiers of proximity to the Great Ones, these beings that could be described as gods, which is an altogether different change to the ones that the Bergenworth scholars were undergoing at the school itself that we just went to. But yet here we are at somewhere that significantly resembles Bergenworth, and yeah, what could that imply? What's going on here? What's going on here? What do we have here in the lecturer's chair, who is, by the way, dead as hell? A key to the lecture theatre. Excellent. That's where we are. So, yeah. So, like, what is this place? Why did being grabbed by a weird alien bring us here? Or, weird beast bring us here? Oh, clearly we've interrupted them. Oh, Jesus, there's a few of them in here. I'd forgotten about that. Whoop. Getting out of here. Jeez, there's so many. We haven't even pulled all of them. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, we're getting back into a corner here. Let's break out. So, like, clearly Bergenworth scholars, like we've established that, right? But like they've befallen a completely different change to the ones that we saw before, right? Like, is there some schism, some divergence in the school that we can think of? Because, like before, like we mentioned that there was a schism in the school, right? There was a point at which we saw a vision of it. We saw Lawrence go off to investigate the old blood. We saw Willem say, "No, don't do it." This was a different enemy type. Huh? Oh, I see. They've got like a flask of what seems to be their own body fluid. Wow. You ever sitting in a lecture and you just same. You ever sitting in a lecture theatre and you just get stabbed to death before you can even stand up? And this is the Augur of Ebrietas. Now, this is a really interesting item. Again, I don't think I'm going to be able to equip it because we only have 8 arcane. But let's have a look at it anyway. A remnant of the eldritch truth encountered at Bergenworth. Use phantasms, the invertebrates known to be augurs of the Great Ones, to partially summon abandoned Ebrietas. The initial encounter marked the start of an inquiry into the cosmos from within the old labyrinth, and led to the establishment of the choir. Now. This is a lot, right? So, like the empty phantasm shell from before, this is clearly a weird slug-like thing. I love how it's sitting on a piece of paper, like, they didn't have plastic bags or like boxes or anything, so just wrap it up. It's fine. It's fine. It's clearly fine. It's clearly not fine. So the Augur, so this is a remnant of the eldritch truth with a capital T, encountered at Bergenworth, and it involves partially summoning an abandoned partially summon abandoned Ebrietas. Now, I can't show you this because I don't have enough arcane to do it, but this is actually the item that uses that arcane spell that we saw earlier, where the Bergenworth scholar opens a portal and summons just a whole bunch of tentacles, which then the portal closes and the tentacles are shorn off. Now, this is really interesting, right? Because Ebrietas is a proper noun we haven't seen before, but if we are to understand that these phantasms, these slugs, are augurs of the Great Ones that can summon abandoned Ebrietas, which is an eldritch truth encountered at Bergenworth, then can we understand that Ebrietas is what Rom saw? Like, Rom had clearly come into contact with some knowledge that had changed her, and is knowledge of the eldritch truth of Ebrietas that thing. And moreover, like, was there a moreover? Yeah, like the encounter that so shifted and changed Rom's physicality marked the start of an inquiry into the cosmos from within the old labyrinth and led to the establishment of the choir. Now, I don't know how much the choir have come into our discussion, our analysis, but they're a branch of the Healing Church, and yeah, we will talk a lot more about them over the next few episodes because they are about to come into frame in a big way. Yeah. For now, I'm gonna leave through this door because I think that's all the exploring we can do in here. Oh, wait, no, never mind. There's a little bit more. So I think that's everything. Yeah. I think that's all the doors. What does Patches say? What does the man in the window say if we have a chat with him now? Probably repeats his previous line, huh? Yeah. Well, I took the plunge and it was cool, but now we must leave. So, partially summoning Ebrietas just gives you a whole bunch of tentacles, huh? So, Ebrietas got a lot of tentacles. And what do we know about tentacles? They're arcane and alien and weird. The only sort of shared visual DNA of that we've seen is... Oh, are we here? How do we... Wait, I didn't even know we could get to here at this point. I wasn't ready for this at all. Oh look, here's that sky we saw. That nightmare sky. Yeah, I'm not remotely ready to talk about this place yet, so we're not going to go here at all. But feast your eyes, because we will come back here later. So, yeah. However, being as it is about 10 past midnight, I think that seems like a reasonable place to call an end to this episode of Jane Bloodborne's House of Eyeballs. But it's been a lot of fun. We've done a lot of cool stuff this stream. We killed 2 very cool area bosses, and our understanding of the world, our place within it, and I guess the relationships of a lot of its major players has deepened quite significantly. Like, we've learned a lot, and we will only learn more as time goes on. But I don't know if we will get to the Nightmare Frontier in our next stream, because we're probably going to go back to Yahar Ghul, because there's a lot of stuff to be done there. But for now, I'm going to say thank you to everyone who tuned in for the stream. Thank you to whoever it was who followed and or subscribed and or donated. I don't really know which. And thanks to everyone. I love you all. It's a lot of fun to play Bloodborne when you're around. So I'll see you next time.